Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Your Biz Story. This is Tom Sabo, your host. Your Biz Story examines small business in Northeast Ohio. You'll meet the owner, learn about the business products and services offered, how the business got started, the challenges a business owner faces, and many other aspects of running a small business. Whether you're a consumer, business owner, or have thought about opening a business, you'll thoroughly enjoy today's podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Your Biz Story. Your Biz Story is the podcast that speaks to local business owners and tells the ins and outs, the hows and the whys of their business. We talk about their products, their services. We talk about how they started the business, and we talk about the challenges that business owners face, and even some anecdotal stories, as I refer to them, come about. Our guests today are Craig and Susan Day from Daydream Farms. Craig is from Menor. Susie is from Akron. Craig attended Harvey High School, graduating in '88. Susie was in high school in Copley, graduated in '92. When putting their bio together, I asked them, I said, well, what's your personal experience in the wine industry? And Craig looked at me and he said, none. Okay. So it turns out that Susie is a nurse and she practices at Geneva High School. Craig has a woodworking background, and he said, I was not college material. And at, at a point in time when you're graduating from high school, to maybe have that realization, I think says a lot about how Craig knows himself. Craig is a musician. He became a musician at the age of 43, and he describes music as his new drug. All right. And in August of 23, they opened Daydream Farms. They also have Daydream Farms Candle Company, which their daughter runs. Their daughter is Taylor. Craig and Susie met in '93. They were married in '95. And their hobbies are, for Craig, the winery and music. Susie is into reading and lifting weights. They also enjoy motorcycle riding. Their daughter is Taylor, and they have 3 grandchildren. So, Susie, Craig, welcome to Your Biz Story.
Thank you.
How
Thank you
you
for having
doing?
us. We're doing great.
Good. Let's kick it off with, what is Daydream Farms?
You know, it goes back, to where when we first bought the property in 2009, and we're just a 3-acre parcel, and it was a lot of dang grass to cut, and we decided that we didn't want to cut all that kind of grass, and so we got chickens our first year, and then we got pigs our second year. So we would raise 4 hogs over on one side, 4 hogs over on another side, and then we got the bees, and then we also
Okay.
got meat chickens. So we were a small working farm to where the one pavilion on our property, Susie and I processed all the meat chickens right there. And you know, that was something that we really took great pride in, because we had great food, tasty food, healthy food, and we can eat from our property, which was great. We would sell our farm fresh eggs on the roadside stand. And then,
Along with honey and fruit
yeah,
and
the honey
vegetables,
and
whatever we had extra.
Yeah.
right. And we also, for our vegetables, we had it as a donation only. Ashtabula County is the largest county in Ohio, but it's also the poorest county in Ohio.
Yeah.
And so we had an abundance of vegetables. And so we put out there on social media that if you can't afford fresh, organic vegetables, you didn't have to pay for them.
Just come and take what you need.
Take what you need. And people that couldn't afford it came, but the people that could afford it paid more.
Good.
It's good stuff. It's paying it forward. We knew we were onto something as far as how to treat people and good karma.
And
Yeah.
it balanced out. At the end of the day, we looked at, can we replenish that crop the next year?
Yeah.
So, people were fed, we were fed, and we could replenish.
It's kind of interesting that if you look at our social climate today, and it's very easy to kind of lose faith in people.
Absolutely.
But to see people respond to your stand the way they did kind of makes you feel like, well, I guess we're doing okay. And it's nice to see people doing that kind of thing.
Correct. And even into the winery now, you like as you just said, in today's world, we see it seems like a lot of division.
Yeah.
And you get all walks of life that come into the winery, and everybody is breaking bread together and smiling and listening to the live music and stuff like that. And there's no BS that the news people want us to think there is, and that's a great thing.
It's amazing what a glass of wine can do for people, right?
Yes, glass of wine, good music, some good grub, and everybody's happy.
So the winery, how'd that come about?
Not on a traditional method in any way you think about it. I did have, as a woodworker, I got injured and back in 1999 and have had 3 back surgeries since. I actually spent my 30th birthday in the hospital, 5 days having my first surgery. And, you think you're over the hill when you're a kid, you're like, man, 30 is old. And here I am in the hospital 5 days, with all loaded up with rods, cages, screws, the whole ball of wax in my back. And, coming out of that, and I was the breadwinner for the family, and that's what guys did. They worked. And, my surgeon said that you have to change careers. And I said, well, Doc, can you go to work at McDonald's today, and quit being a surgeon? And his answer was no. Well, God gave me a gift to work with my hands.
Yeah.
And so he says, well, you have to at least take a year off. And I went back to work part-time in 3 months, and my first day back was 13 hours. And I came home and I started popping pills, pain pills, because I had to go to work.
Yeah.
And, fast forward to where 13 years later, I had an addiction to Oxy.
Mm-hmm.
And, woke up Super Bowl Sunday and 49ers against the Ravens, the Harbaugh brothers against each other. And I told her, I said, I am done. I was jonesing pretty hard because I missed a dose. And she's a nurse. And I said, well, you can just watch me. And she's like, that's not on my pay grade.
No.
And I went away. I did check myself into Glen Bay. And, I got clean. And, 6 months later, at Glen Bay, they said that they would see me in a month, that I would relapse. And I said, you are not going to see me again. And it's been 13 plus years that I've been clean on opiates. So
Congratulations.
thank you. But, 6 months later, I read an article on PTSD. I do not have PTSD, but I read an article on AOL, and heck, I don't even know if AOL is still around, but about how we're treating our wounded warriors with music therapy versus medication. And our daughter had a $15 Walmart guitar, nylon string with a broken guitar neck on it with a Hal Leonard book. And I picked it up, and that became my new drug. And never thought in a million years we'd be where we are now.
Yeah.
But I started playing at some of the wineries and working up to gigging 60 to 70 gigs a year.
Wow.
And, got into some home winemaking with another musician friend of mine, Mitch Larson. And
That we wouldn't have met had he not gone down that path.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I said. This is such a weird way of getting into it from getting hurt in 1999, and So we ended up becoming real close friends with them, started making some homemade wine, and the first batch was terrible.
Very.
You know, so I started it at the very bottom and there was only one way up, you know. And so the amount of gigging at the wineries and checking everything out, and Geneva on the Lake, and then COVID hit.
Mm-hmm.
And just out of the blue, we're sitting in the hot tub drinking some much better homemade wine. And I looked over to Susie and I said, "You want to start a winery?" She spits her wine out in the hot tub and says, "What the F do we know about running a winery?" And
True story.
and I said, "Absolutely nothing, but we'll put a team around us." And I had a gig the next night at a local winery, and they laughed at me, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I am dead serious." And they were, "How can we help?" And so that was the response of a lot of the wineries, the local wineries, was, "How can we help you?" So, which was great.
You know, not to. I had Tony and Beth DeBevick
Mhm.
here sitting exactly where the two of you are. And the one thing that came out very clear was this small group of winery owners that pitch in and bolster each other, support each other, and help out when needed.
It's a great region.
Yeah.
We are in a tourist region, and you know, we don't know Tony and Beth very well. I have gigged there before, and I've played
Okay.
there, and have held conversations with Tony. And the one thing that we look up to them as is, one, they're the largest estate winery in Ohio,
Yeah.
but their work ethic.
Yes.
You know, I'm not going to say how old they are because I don't know, but we can kind of assume what age they are, range, and they work their butts off still.
Oh, yeah.
Every
and-
time they're there, they're
and
bussing tables,
They've earned
they're
it.
cleaning, they're serving
So-
customers,
Yes.
they're working.
So
Yeah.
whatever kind of people that people think they are, there's no question that their work ethic is what has made them where they
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what we look up to on them. So
It's nice to have, I'll call them mentors like that.
Mhm.
You know,
Absolutely.
you may not think of them as, but they really are, aren't they? Yeah.
I look up to them, and you know, any given night when we're there, we're bussing tables just like they are, you know, and it's your business. Nobody's going, it could be managers or whatever, nobody's going to treat it like their own because
Yeah.
it's not. And the only way to keep moving forward is to jump in and do every little thing, clean the bathrooms, take the garbage out,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. And we get that because we've been to Debonair a gazillion times and see them doing it. And that's something that we look up to.
Yeah. Now, since it's a winery, what I want to say, products and services. What is your range of product and services at Daydream Farms?
I think our niche to start with is the mead. So
Okay.
we have a full, it's called an A1A in the wine business, which is a full liquor permit. So we have beer, liquor, we just like a bar. We
Yeah,
don't
I've
carry
noticed your
anything.
bourbon shelf up there.
Yes, we do have a good bourbon list. But what is our niche and what separates us from I believe there's 38 other wineries in the
Mhm.
region right now, is mead. Mead is honey wine, which is the oldest form of alcohol. And us raising bees, we thought, like, what's gonna, you know, everybody's got a Cab Sauv, everybody's got a Chardonnay or
Yeah,
Riesling
yeah.
or whatever it is, and it's what's different, you know. And yeah, you can make your twist on that variety and do your own thing on it, but the meads with the bees that was like the aha moment, like, this
Yeah.
is what's going to separate us from everybody else. And they have taken off. The meads are really selling well.
Wow.
I would say the younger generation more. They think it's because
Really?
of
Mhm.
you know, because of
It's
the
more
honey.
organic and
It's
natural.
Yeah.
gluten free, and what, you know, I whatever it's selling. So that's a good thing.
You can't argue with success.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't. But and we recognize, the thing is that we recognize that it's not the product. Even though we have the wines, we have the mead, we have the beer, we have the bourbon, and we have a bourbon and cigar night. You wouldn't think that at a winery, but other wineries have adopted it as well because it does very well.
Good.
Um, but yeah, it's to us, it's not the product, it's the experience.
Yeah.
And a little story though, that kind of how the meads came about. So as part of our farm, we had the apiary. We had 14 beehives on property before we opened our doors, and our bee inspector would come out. And he is the sweetest man in the world. And, he'd always come and tell us how much he loved our property. He loved everything we're doing to it. And, we're like, we're just trying to figure out how to make this farm successful. And he sat us down the one day and he's like, it's not about the steak, it's about the sizzle. And we sat and we're like, Ed, explain that to us.
Huh?
He's like, you'll figure it out. He goes, so we're like, all right, do we make things out of the honey and start selling that instead of just jars of honey?
Yeah.
What do we do with it? And then finally, when we opened the winery, or, we're talking about that and we're like, mead, that's our sizzle. That's.
And then he shows up. We don't have the bees on property anymore, but he still shows up every year and he goes,
Yeah, he was just there
"You
about a month
found the
ago."
sizzle."
They found
Yeah.
the sizzle.
Yeah. So, that was him like getting our wheels turning. Like,
Yeah.
okay, how do we take our honey and do something different with it? Our apples, when we had the orchard and we would make apple butter and have an apple butter festival, or you can come and stir it, with,
Yeah.
over the fire all day and then jar up some apple butter to take home. And, so different things like that just started getting our brains moving is, okay, we're providing an experience. It's not the product, it's the experience that people are looking for.
Susie, I'm going to ask you a question, and if you don't want to go there, let me know, and it won't hurt my feelings. But Craig has been very open about his addiction and his story.
Yes.
How did you get through that with him?
It was difficult. It was, we made a vow to each other to always stand by each other. And some days it was hard.
Yes.
He'd come home and, almost felt like a single parent at times, going to all the events with our daughter. And,
Yeah.
either he was tired or hurt or was working, because the first 3 months he was off, but then he says he went back part-time, but it was full-time from the beginning. Because that was his makeup. He's a workaholic.
Yeah.
And he wants perfection. And finally we sat down and I had a talk and I said, we can't do it like this anymore. Something's got to give. I need my husband back. I need
Yeah.
our father, Taylor's father back. And, he realized, and that's when, we made the decision together for him to go sober. Off of the medication. Now, it was a prescription medication. There was never any illegal use of it. He did it exactly as his doctor told him to.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a couple doctor's appointments and voiced my concerns to his doctor and said, let's start backing off, and got a big runaround. And that's when
Really?
we finally decided to check into Glen Bay and do it on our own.
That
Okay.
was during the time when the Oxy was running from, north down to Florida, and a lot of
Yeah.
the pain docs were not provable on my end, but getting kickbacks or whatever
yeah.
it was. There's
Yeah.
so many documentaries on this, and his thing was stay ahead of the pain. So he was just always up. And I was on
Yeah.
max dose.
Of that one, but he had you on a couple other pain medications too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every couple hours, it's a different pill that you're taking to stay ahead. But he was still in pain. It didn't change anything except make him grumpy or not care.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was rinse and repeat every night.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, from what you're saying and what I'm picking up from you, is that he was not who he is
Correct.
through that.
I mean, just, I would say more absent, because he focused on work. And then when he came home and he was in pain, he'd do the yard or, take care of his household chores, but never any extra. It's not
Yeah.
like we went out on dates or,
Yeah.
family things as much for a while. I mean, it was 70 hours a week of working and then taking care of the yard and, home appliances or, whatever needed
Yeah.
fixed,
Yeah.
taking care of that. So it was tough,
Okay. Okay.
and we just got to the point where it's like, okay, let's get back to who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got mead, we've got wine, we've got music. Boy, what else is thrown into the mix?
We have, we do on the food aspect of things, we do small shareables, charcuterie. We have
Okay.
a pretzel brat board that does extremely well. But what also makes us different than the majority of the other wineries is we do bring in food trucks. So
Oh.
our food trucks, every time that they come in, it's something different. And the food trucks have gained a following at our place because you match a food truck that, you know, whatever food, whether it's Cajun, whether it's barbecue, whether it's, you know, lobster, Cousins Bay lobster, or tacos or pizza. You know, you match that with very good music, and you know, arguably we have one of the nicest outdoor areas, you
Oh,
know,
you do, yeah.
in the winery region here, and it just creates the best experience for people. And you know, we do live at our home, the winery, you
Yeah.
know, and people see our hot tub, they see our bedroom, and above the hot tub it says "Get Naked," and we thought about taking that off of there, but it creates the experience that when you come back a second time, you feel like you're hanging in a friend's backyard.
Yeah.
And no other place can offer that. And that's what is making us successful early on, is just treating people the way we want to be treated when we go somewhere.
We're very
Pretty easy.
vested in our customers. I mean, they become friends. We learn their names because they mean something to us. They're very important.
Exactly.
We remember what they drink. We remember that their child or grandchild had this event and can ask about that. And you know, we really try to nurture that friendship with them. You know, it's important to us.
Well, and it seems like both of you enjoy people.
Yeah.
And when you enjoy people, that whole thing becomes easier.
It is very easy. And, you know, a smart man that has helped us a lot, local business guy, he tells us, he goes, what you're doing is simple, but it's not easy. And I kind of looked at him like the dog heard something and cocked my head, you know, and what do you mean? And he says, what you're doing is simple. You're treating people the way that you want to be treated, which is just being a good human, just be a good human anymore, you know, and but to do it day in and day out, you know, that's the hard part. That's not the easy part. And, you know, that we're not going to lie, at times we don't want to be, you know, walking around, you know, it's at times, you know, whether you're in pain or you're thinking about something else, or it's hard to always have that smile and be authentic.
Sincere.
Yeah, sincere, authentic all the time. And when we recognize that, or if one of the girls behind the bar is working, or our daughter's like, man, you just look pissed, you know, and it's like, we don't want other people thinking that, you know? Yeah.
We exit stage left and
Yeah.
and
Go
remove ourselves for a while.
Like, why are we upset or whatever it is? But we're just human, you know, and those are things. And I think that's what's relatable too with people.
Yeah.
They see the good and the bad.
Yeah.
I refer to it as being on all the time. And that it can wear you out.
Yes.
Absolutely.
When you do it 4 days a week.
Yeah.
For, you know, and right now this is we're the end of July, and you know, we still have 2 more go months, you know, before it starts tapering off, and we close down the week of Christmas and all of January just to breathe,
Exhale.
and catch up with whatever bottling or whatever needs to be done, maintenance or anything like that. But to
Vacation.
hopefully get away for a little bit, you know, and we tell everybody, look, you are the reason why we're being successful early on. We have a is it a motto, or is it, you know, we have a sign that says, thank you for making our daydream come true.
Yes.
And that is, you know, right above the door as soon as you walk in.
I thought you were
can
going to
see
get
that.
back to the get naked stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's not our motto.
Yeah.
But does it seem to you that as a society we're losing the ability to laugh at ourselves?
It is.
Sometimes.
I think people take us too serious. And, you know, there is people that'll come into the winery that know a hell of a lot more than I do. where's your vineyard? We are not a vineyard.
Yeah.
But we don't have to be a vineyard, in the law,
Yeah.
and they'll kind of poo-poo us because of what we're doing. And we know who we are, and we're doing it, trying to be the bestest of who we are. There's somebody else that you could go to, that, and so we don't entertain, or, they try to create this little jabber back and forth of, well, you should be it's like, I don't have time for it.
Right.
There's somebody else there's 37 other wineries that you can go to that should meet your needs.
Let me walk you to your car.
Yes.
And we've never claimed to be a vineyard. We've never claimed, to be anything we're not. We are who we are. We make a good product. And our thing is more about good wine brings people in. A great experience will make you come back. And that's more of our motto is come back, and hang out with us. You're hanging in our backyard. We're just a relaxed, fun, nice place to be.
Yeah. Now you said, let me see if I can see when did you open the winery in 23?
Yes,
August 19th of 2023.
Okay. So, I always like to talk to business owners on this podcast about the challenges that you face. Many of our guests, they've been in business for 20, 40, 60 or more years. Starting in 23, what do you see as your challenges?
I think the first challenge that I think that we came across, which happened to be our biggest pro and our biggest con, was that we lived there. There's no hiding that when you're pulling up, and if you're coming the first time, you see a house. And so we had the small property to put this on, but then the biggest challenge was it's at our home. And how do we do that? How do we bring all these strange people to our home? And we do like to entertain, and we have no problem with friends bringing somebody that we don't know. But this is right off the bat. People are coming that we don't know. We realized really quickly that our biggest con is actually our biggest pro. And so that was not a challenge anymore. It was just, of what we were just saying a little bit ago, of people coming in and you're hanging out in a friend's backyard. I think, the other challenge is we didn't grow up in the industry. And either trying to prove to others, we belong.
Yeah.
And when we were always trying to think of proving to somebody else or whatever, it was like, no, let's just keep being us. And
It's
then
becoming too stressful, worrying about what others were saying about us. So now it's like we water our own grass. We worry about our grass. I don't care what anybody else is doing. Let's just take care of ours and let them take care of theirs.
Yeah. And the potential of growth, we've already built, in 3 weeks, it'll be 3 years that we've been open, and we had to build a brand new production building because my current production was my wood shop and was never supposed to be a winemaking area. And so we built a very big production building, and now we're contemplating on adding on to our tasting room. And the plans are there. How do you? Everything in life's about money anymore. So how to fund it? And the scary thought of, do you take on more debt? And
This early on,
and it's the older you get, you want to be less debt. And here we're contemplating. I'm 55 years old, 56 years old, and do we add a couple more hundred, on top of things? And that's a scary thing. And fortunately, we do have a lot of business owners that come in that have gone through this, and not this industry, but just a growth.
Growing a business. Yeah.
So I think that is the current hurdle, issue, or something that we stress about and think about constantly. Like, when do we do it? And so because I'm saying that, I'm going to back all the way up to the initial part of the winery. we did all the pros and cons of the winery, but we couldn't make the jump because of the money. We were on the motorcycle and we're cruising down some country road, and I got my hot ass wife on the back of the bike. Music is crystal clear, the weather's perfect, and a song comes on the radio that we had never heard before. And in the chorus it says, if you have a chance, take it. If you have a dream, chase it, because a dream will never chase you back. And the song is called Till You Can't by Cody Johnson. And I'm listening to this, and 2-3 times of hearing the chorus, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I literally put my hand,
Yeah.
The light comes on.
I put my hand, on her leg, and I kind of leaned back a little bit, and I said, we're effing going for it. So the winery came about because of a song.
Yeah.
Whatever sign, we couldn't do it, and then all of a sudden a song, and we were like, there's the sign. It's crazy how life is,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It was hard to take that jump. He already worked from home, so we knew he would be there. We needed health insurance. Neither one of us are of an age to get Social Security,
Yeah.
Medicare,
Yeah.
that yet. So we knew I would need to maintain working, so it's like, okay, how is this going to work? How is it going to play out knowing we're going to be having grandkids and,
Yeah.
things like that. So
Reality.
we both had to be on board 100%. And mentally we were, but mentally we weren't. But that song kind of helped solidify, like, you know what, that's a sign. Let's take this leap of faith and jump on it.
And thankful we did.
Yeah.
I worked for a company, and the president was kind of a mentor to me. And he would always say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And until you take that first step,
Seems a lot.
yeah, it's just a dream.
Yeah.
But when you take that first step, then it becomes reality, and
Sure.
you're in it. And that first step may put you into water that's up to your neck.
And you have to change the paradigm. You always heard the thing, well, if it doesn't work, you got this. You got a cool backyard or whatever it is, and it's like, what, change that paradigm to where instead of saying if it doesn't work out, whatever, when it does work out, what's going to happen? How good things are going to be because of the hard ass work that you put into it.
Yes.
And that has been our thing all the time. Not, what if it doesn't work? No, let's change that. What's going to happen when it does work? And because there is no plan B.
Yeah.
Don't have a plan B. This is gonna work. And then it takes, and that's the thing with businesses, and as you're going to be as you're doing these podcasts and all the different people that you're going to have here, anybody that owns a business puts in way more than 40 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only way to get ahead in this world, is you have to be willing to put the work in. And currently we still are ready to
Putting the work in.
put in the work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And still enjoying it. We still
Yeah.
really enjoy it.
Where do you see things in 5 or 10 years?
I think, when another business CEO of a big company, he told us that we have to have an out. And I said, we just started, and he's like, you got to work towards an out, and we've been talking about this with our daughter. Initially she was not on board with the winery because it was at her home. And now her working it, and she's also a nurse, but she really enjoys it. And so that is either going to be, she's going to take it over, or we're going to sell.
Yeah.
I mean, those are our two options that we're going to do. And so 10 years, that puts me at 66 years old. I hope to be like Tony DeBevick and still working my butt off. And I think, again, working when you're older and stuff, that just keeps you younger. Jerry Hunley, who we absolutely love, from Hunley Cellars, she's getting up there a little bit, and that lady will not stop working, and she's always got this beautiful smile on her face. And we absolutely adore Jerry Hunley, and we look up to her as well with her work ethic.
Yeah.
So I think that those are two things that it's either, we're selling it, or our daughter's going to take it over. And
I think she's coming around more to wanting to take it over. I think she has fun there. She works it. She's really taking this last year especially more initiative, you know, as a managerial role, wanting to learn how the winemaking happens. And, you know, so she's showing us that she wants the future.
I kind of found, I used to make wine. I still have about 75 bottles left. And the only way to really learn and understand is to get yourself a couple of carboys, some juice, and jump into
absolutely.
it.
That's where we started, you know.
Exactly.
We went to the juice house at the Debonair.
Yeah.
You know, and we started with the 5-gallon carboys. And when you go from a 5-gallon or 6-gallon carboy up to a 200-gallon batch, boy, the sweat just starts coming off the forehead a little bit. You know, there's definitely a difference in pricing right there, you know, and
some filtering mistakes along the way
filtering mistakes that, you know, but those are all.
But
we joke that we should have been do-over farm, you know, because you learn by your mistakes.
Yeah.
And, you know, I say I didn't go to college or whatever, but it seems like I'm going to school every day.
Every day.
You know, because you're learning, and like, don't do that again, you know, and you know, I take a lot of notes on all my winemaking and mead making, and I compare batches to batches, tasting to tasting, and every year is different from the vintage, you know, whether it was hotter or colder or whatever it is. So, you know, ultimately it comes down to taste, you know, and we have the fear of sucking. We don't want to be bad at anything. And so we work hard to be the best that we can, you know, in everything that we do, whether it's providing an experience or make a good wine or mead or whatever it is, we try to work hard at it.
You know, you talk about making the mistakes. I had 3 6-gallon carboys going down in the basement. And my wife and I left for vacation, went down to Florida for about 4 or 5 weeks. Before we left, I did not check my airlocks. I came home to 18 gallons of vinegar.
We've all messed up, you know. I mean, that's the things that you wouldn't do that again, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I hated having to pour 18 gallons of vinegar down the drain.
Right.
So yes, you talk about learning.
Sure.
I understand.
You know, and it's but that's, again, you know, we didn't grow up in this industry.
Yeah.
And we're making more mistakes than if we had you know, grown up in the industry. But we went and changed this journey that, you know, we also hold a worship night at the winery one Wednesday a month, the first Wednesday of the month. And, you know, we just don't know what path we're on. You know, we think we're going down a path and just like going all the way back to 99, getting hurt. Who would ever thunk that in 99 to where we'd be sitting right now? You know, all because I got hurt. And you could go, well, I'm thankful I got hurt. It sounds kind of crazy because I was a really good woodworker.
Yeah.
But it's the positive that comes out of a negative. I mean,
right.
You know, there was a path for us. We just had to learn.
Yeah.
Find it and take it.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, you know, that, and within our name, Daydream Farm Winery, people come in and they say, well, where did Daydream Farm Winery come in? And the easy thing is as soon as we tell them our last name's Day, they have the aha moment.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's easy.
Now I get it.
Now we get it. And we're just walking around daydreaming, you know, and cutting the grass and coming up with some cool ideas and just always daydreaming. And they're like, now we get it. Didn't know your last name was Day. So, yeah.
Well, believe it or not, we're coming up on 38 minutes. Okay. I know you guys have some commitments, so I think this might make maybe a good jumping off point.
Sure.
I want to thank you both for coming in. This is the fun part of doing this, is to be able to talk to people like yourself, hear your story, get to know a little bit about what's going on inside the head and inside the heart. And this has been good.
And it's just recently that we've been telling more of the story, you know. And a lot of people want to know, like they know you as a friend now or whatever business you do, and it's they want to be more vested, you know, like tell us a little bit about your background or whatever, and this did just that. And we've never done anything like this, so we're definitely a little bit nervous to come in here like this, but
you guys,
you made it great.
You're doing it easy. You're doing a great job. Both of you. you wouldn't know this is your first. So I want to thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, and I think you're gonna see this puss at the winery a few more times.
Yeah,
Good.
well, we look forward to it.
So yeah. So I want to thank both Craig and Suzi for coming in. I want to thank all of my one or two listeners out there that have tuned in. And so if you want to either learn more about Daydream Farms, Craig and Suzi, you can go to their website, which is ddfwinery.com. They're located at 5703 Ohio Route 166 in Rock Creek, Ohio. You can give them a call at 216-403-6218. And I want to invite you all to come on out to Daydream Farms, have a glass of wine, say hello to Craig and Suzi, and take a look around the grounds. You're going to like what you see. All righty. If you found this episode of real interest and you'd like to hear more, you can do so at my website, tom-sabo.com/podcasts. And I also want to again credit Craig and Suzi at www.ddfwinery.com. And I want to thank Madison Public Library for hosting and for producing this podcast. And I'm going to kind of wave and say hello to Sean back there behind the screen. And he provides a very valuable service to this podcast. So again, thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to talking with you and seeing you again. Thanks a lot.